with that, I'm going to turn it over to Avalon to introduce the two featured speakers.
Thanks, Maura. So the two featured speakers today are Amanda Vitale and Tony Emmi, representing the CNY Regional Market. So Amanda is the Executive Director of the CNY Regional Market. She was born and raised on an active farm in Central New York and has a long history of working with farmers markets. Tony was raised on a fruit and vegetable farm just outside of Syracuse. And after leaving Central New York to serve in the Army, Tony returned to run his family farm that now retails at the CNY Regional Market.
Great. So Amanda and Tony, we'll turn it over to you. I have your slides right here. Just let me know when you want me to advance them. Oop, you're muted.
Can everybody hear me now? All right. So my name is Amanda Vitale. I'm the Executive Director at the Regional Market. I started the Executive Director position in January of 2020, but have worked there for several years before applying for that position. And I've also grown up at the Regional Market and other farmers markets, being on an active farm. So the mission of the authority is to provide facilities, programs, and services that promote agriculture and commerce here in Central New York. You can move on to the next slide. All right, so a little bit about the history of our market. Let me put this one up really quick. So we were established by enacting legislation by New York State Senate in 1935. And then following our enacting legislation, work began to construct the facility, and that was as a WPA project that put people back to war after, in the late 30s. So that was, a great opportunity that the authority provided to the community there. So as the market, once the market was developed, resources kind of weren't continually put into the property and facility. And by the late 80s and early 90s, the facility was really starting to decay, and it wasn't really in great usable shape. And you can see there a overhead photo of the facility in 1996. And that was the year before a previous executive director to me came into the authority. When he came in, him and the board president at the time were very active and working to get some funding to bring the market back to its former glory. And we're able to basically put forth an $8.4 million restoration project. And that was actually funded by the state of New York. And that was the last time that we received any funding from any outside source. So the latest construction that was done on the facility was in 2013, and we opened the F shed, which I hope most of you have seen or visited, for the 75th anniversary of our farmers market. So you can go to the next slide. Okay. So today, most people know us for is our farmers market. So we're open Saturday and Saturday year-round for our farmers market from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. This farmers market fills all of our buildings, and we see upwards of about 400 different vendors on a great Saturday. So we also have a year-round flea market on Sunday where used products can be sold, and then a seasonal farmers market on Thursdays. Our market was established to serve 7 counties in Central New York. And we are overseen by a board of directors consisting of 13 members that either are appointed from the counties that we serve, and then 1 appointed as a liaison with the ag and markets. So we're more than just produce because, when you come to our market, you can find pretty much anything that's legal for sale here in New York. So it's going to differ a little bit between Saturday and Sunday as to what products are available, but we really have and offer an incredible variety of products. Foot traffic on a busy Saturday, we'll see about 20,000 people come through the market. And the last time that we estimated trade per day was in the early 90s. And at that point, it was over 400,000. We're estimating that it would be upwards of over $1 million today. And we're more than just a farmer's market. So everybody knows us for the farmer's market, but we also are home to wholesalers, a burned dairy storage facility, a diner, and the market commons, and Wendy's. So we have a variety of things that we offer, and we take multiple roles in the food system through the different parts of our market. So we can go to the next slide. So one of our main goals is always to give back to the community, and we spend a lot of money and resources on this alone. So one of the big things we really do on the farmers market and even the flea market is we provide the sale of tokens that people can use their SNAP benefits or their debit credit card to come in, purchase tokens, and then use those to purchase goods on the market. When people purchase their EBT tokens or their SNAP benefit cards, they're $1 each, and for every $5 that somebody purchases off their card, they get an additional $2 for free. So their $5 actually becomes $7, and then they can use that money out on the market. That is a very widely used program. And the great thing about our debit credit tokens, they come in $5 increments. The vendors give cash change, and we don't charge any fees to the consumer or to the vendor. So we actually consume all those fees ourselves. Last year there was a shortage, so we weren't able to reorder as many tokens as we really needed. But even with the limits we had to place on purchasing, we did about $300,000 in EBT sales, $117,000 of the Fresh Connect coupons, which were the extra free bonus, about $65,000 in debit credit sales. So that put, an extra close to $500,000 out on the market for the vendors without having to pay any additional fees. In addition to that, we also are a site for, during COVID, some of this stuff hasn't quite come back yet, but we are a site for senior meals, and we distribute the senior nutrition coupons. The seniors get a $20 coupon packet to spend on fresh and local produce. We also have a demonstration kitchen that we have used for community outreach to help people to learn how to incorporate new and healthy products into their meals. And we currently just entered into a partnership with Syracuse School District. They have a facility now on our grounds, and we're going to be working with them toward the Farm to School initiative. Go to the next slide. All right, so what's next? The main problem right now in our facility is the funding and the age of our facilities. So the restoration project was completed in the early 2000s. The lifespan of most materials and work is about 20 years. So we're looking at the end of the lifespan of a lot of the work. As I stated, that was the last time we received any outside funding. So we're at the point where we're really facing this battle of how are we going to afford to make the improvements and do the work necessary to take our aging facility and bring it into the future. A great way for all of you and for the community to get involved in our market. If you're a farmer, come be a vendor at our market, spread the word about our market, follow us, especially that we're year round. A lot of people don't know we're open year round. Follow us on our social media. There's opportunities for collaboration if you reach out to Rachel, who's on this call, and shop local. Obviously, as we're all supporting the local food system, it's really important that we, put our money into the work as well. So as we look into the future, some of the strategic planning ideas that I've got for the market, right now our facility, as it was built in the 30s, the warehouse space is pretty outdated. We're looking at needing some updated warehouse space, reimagining the current outdated warehouse space. The possible idea of installing a community kitchen, and an idea that I've kind of been dwelling on of rebranding Farmers Market Drive as it's a tie between Park Street through the market and to the stadium. So that you can go on to the next slide, and that's all I have. So I think I'm going to hand it over to Tony, and then we can do questions afterward, if that's okay.
That sounds great.
Okay.
And Tony, I don't have slides for you, but I'll stop sharing so we can at least see one another. And if you have slides, you should have sharing capability.
Unmute, Tony.
Okay, there we are. Couldn't get it on mute. I'm sorry. So, yeah, my name's Tony, and I'm on the farmers market board of directors. Baldwinsville, New York, and this is my 30th season as a farmer. So, gonna try to keep going. My grandfather was actually an immigrant from Sicily in 1921. He worked for the city of Syracuse, pretty much digging ditches for electricity, gas, water. And then around 1946, he was able to buy some land and start farming. Then my father and his brother-in-law incorporated the farm in 1961. I have many fond memories of the market. I also grew up on the market, you know, being there at 3:34 in the morning, delivering and retailing. Our main operation now is located in Baldwinsville. We operate about 300 acres. About half of that is actually in fruit and vegetable crops. The other half I use for rye straw for our strawberries, and for rotation to try to help keep the land healthy. We grow our fruits. We grow strawberries, blueberries, and apples. And vegetables, we grow a little bit of everything from sweet corn to winter squash. 80% of our sales are wholesale to local markets and wholesalers and other farmers. And 20% of our sales are in retail, which we retail on the Syracuse market on Saturdays, and we have a farm market in Baldwinsville. Basically, our role in the food system is that of a grower, and I think our farm is sort of unique, just from our longevity and our ability to operate as long as we have. Mostly with a lot of help from family members, and we like to. Another thing that's special about our farm, I think we're good in stewards of the environment. I live on this land, I live on this farm, and I like to keep the land clean and the water clean. So I do everything possible to keep it that way, to keep our land healthy, to keep growing crops on. Our core issues right now are mostly labor regulations and of course taxes, but we've been in what's called the H-2A labor program. It's this federal program to get our workers, and all our workers come from Mexico. Most of the workers in that program have been coming here for 12 to 15 years. So we have a good core group of workers and good relationship, and we just could not do it without them. We do hire approximately 30 local people, but for the field work, it's mostly our H-2A employees that do all the field work. We operate pretty much as a seasonal business. The winters are spent mostly with me and a couple family members doing the farm planning and getting equipment ready for the next season. So we do have a lot of our help's family members, and I enjoy that very much. So I guess one of my visions for long term is to sell more of our produce locally. And I know that's a hard thing. there's a lot of tie-ups with transportation or points of sale. There's areas that don't have stores, areas of our community that don't have access to the food we grow. And somehow I'd like to help with that situation or be part of the solution with that. And I just don't know how to go about it yet. One of the problems is transportation. It's just very expensive, especially now. But we also need those, we need points of sale and points of distribution in areas of need. And I don't know how to solve that. But it's something I'd like to keep my eye on. So basically that's it. I really enjoy being a grower, and I'm thankful for the farm. We're very fortunate to be on this property. It's very nice, and we'll continue to do so as long as we can. So if there's any questions, Mandy and I will take questions.
Great. Thank you both. So, let's see. Anybody who wants to can unmute or use the raise hand function. It's easier.
Well, thank you both for sharing. And I was just wondering, do you as executive director or the board of directors, do you ever tour other markets around the country for inspiration? Or is there something, another market in another state or region that they're doing that's working well that you would like to bring to Syracuse?
So I'll speak on that quick. I'm actually in, Tony's part of the organization as well, but I'm the treasurer on the board of directors for the National Association of Produce Market Managers. And so as part of that organization, it is our goal, and we do it 1 to 2 times a year, where we actually get out across the country and we visit markets. And then usually there's a host market, and that host market, not only do you get to tour their market, learn all the ins and outs and the challenges and the successes of that market, but then they take you around in their local area. So depending on, how rural it is, how far out is local, but they take you around and they show you a lot of the food system and how it all kind of works together. What I will say is I have always been amazed by the market that we've been able to have here in Syracuse. So we are a population of about 150,000 here in Syracuse, and we have a market that rivals in success to those that are 500,000 in population. We are one of the largest retail year-round farmers markets on the East Coast. And I'm always amazed when we get to visit other markets that we've been so successful here in Little Syracuse, especially when we battle seasonal growers. But we definitely feed, so as the organization, we all feed ideas from one another. So like our token program, something that's very unique about our token program versus most markets across New York State is we use metal tokens that are dispersed out of a machine. They're counted in a machine, and they look and feel different than every other market's tokens. That's actually an idea that we got from a market in Atlanta, Georgia. So the goal of the organization is just that, to tour and learn about how markets are successful, where they struggle, and how we can all work together to make all of our markets better.
Robin, I saw that you unmuted, and then we'll go to the raised hands.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, which is, I don't know any of the politics of this, but I do know a friend of mine works with some low-income people and was not happy that the Buddha's market left, because for larger families, it was really helpful to get large amounts of food. And I'm just wondering, is that part of your plan that you raise their rent, like in order to achieve other things, or was there just other stuff behind that I don't have the right to know, and I'm fine with that?
I guess I'll take this one unless Tony, you want to fight for it? No. So basically, the media really portrayed what went down in that situation very one-sidedly. They didn't really take much of what actually happened on the side of the regional farmers market, and they really broadcasted what was brought to them by the previous tenant. So just a little bit more detail than I have ever shared is that their lease was 22 years old and they were in a second 1-year extension. Their rent had been, when their lease was negotiated, they had a lease that had a better rate in a different format than every other tenant on the market. When their lease came up for renewal, the only fair and really moral thing that the market could do was to renew their lease the same as every other lease on the market. That's the story that never really made it out. Obviously, the market didn't want to see a tenant go. We know that the community really enjoyed Buddha's, and it was never our goal to push them out, but more so to make the competition on the market fair. I don't know if Tony wanted to add anything else to that.
Yeah, I talked to some of the legislators during the whole process and just tried to explain to them what was going on. We were just really trying to negotiate with them, and we just, for a new lease, and we just couldn't get anywhere. And I think the market was put in a wrong light. Both sides weren't told there. But we realized that Buddha's was there a long time. You hate to see a tenant go, but we had to do what was right for the market. We serve a lot of people and vendors there in the community, and so the right decision had to be made, and we just had a really hard time with it.
I can jump in to add something as well. I'm our market manager, so I am on the ground every weekend walking the market with vendors. And when Amanda says the word fair, I think it's like something that helped me understand is our farmers are paying so much money to be there. Like, they were paying a fair amount of money to be there, but then when another competitor is selling something and paying less money to be there, that's really helped me understand why the dynamic wasn't fair for our farmers whose rent has been raised in the past over 22 years, and this other tenant hadn't had that. So by understanding what the term fair meant, that helped me understand the reasoning for why these negotiations were taking place. And also, we are a state authority, so we need to have any kind of narrative about decisions that are being made approved by our board of directors, opposed to just responding to different media and questions by customers offhand. We're like a little bit more limited and constrained in that way, being a government entity opposed to a private company that, in any situation like that. So those were just some points that help me understand.
So thanks for the information. I think I will get it out to my friend, and I think maybe we all have an obligation to sort of even the information that was available to people. But I know it's not a question, so I just appreciate the response.
And I put my email in the chat, so I have, if you want to reach out, I can put it in writing for you too. You can share with your friend as well.
Rachel, you could even send it out to the whole listserv, just so that we all have, many of us have seen the news article, but I know that there was a letter that the board put together. So I'm so glad that you all have the opportunity to respond in this forum, but for the broader membership that isn't able to be here, that I think that would be a great use of the listserv, if you feel comfortable. Great. So I'm gonna do hand raising out of order, just because Kiana needs to step off quickly and let me know ahead of time that she has a hard stop. So Kiana, we'll go to you, and then we'll go to Taylor.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Tony, I just had a question. You were talking about trying to get food to under-resourced communities, if I heard you correctly.
Yeah.
I wonder, and maybe you've already done this, have you started to think about like some of the food pantries or the blessing box, or, making some connections with them? Because I know there's a lot of new Americans who value fresh food. And oftentimes when you go to a food pantry, there's not a whole lot of dignity, I guess, in that, or cultural sensitivity, but they value a lot fresh fruits and vegetables. So I don't know if you thought about creating some relationships in that regard. And, you know, I'm sure someone will think of a way to get that food to
Oh,
those
yeah.
spaces.
Yeah, so over the past few years, I have a pretty good relationship with the food bank, and we do some church pantries. But it would be great to have, if there's somewhere where I could develop a list or get a list of pantries that are out there that we could deliver to. One of the problems with a lot of the pantries, and I found this out through my relationship with the food bank, is they do not have refrigeration. Even if we could get like a large refrigerator in some of these pantries, there has to be, there's always money for funding, and that would probably be something that would be very valuable for some of the perishable things that we deliver. So yeah, I've been thinking about that, and if I could come up with a list of more. I know we do a couple of the churches, and I'm always calling over to the food bank to see what's going on, because they go to some of the pantries, and I have a friend over there, and so I stay in contact with him. With Peter Ricardo is actually his name. So yeah, it's a good question, and something that's always sort of bothered me in the back of my mind, because here we are shipping food, you know, down the coast or somewhere, and really a lot of it could probably be used right here. It should be used right here.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks for the question, Ken. Galen, I see you nodding. I don't know if you want to hop in as an emergency food provider to share anything, your thoughts.
Sure. I mean, Tony, hi, I'm Galen. I run in one of the largest emergency food sites in the city of Syracuse. We're based out of University Methodist Church on the corner of University Ave and East Genesee Street, right across from the old Genesee Grand Hotel. We are an interfaith effort between many religious houses and the Food Bank of Central New York. That produce you're sending into the food bank, I get. But we need, you know, what folks are saying here is right on the money. We have a ton of new Americans and Syracusans that have lived here for generations, that have lived in generational poverty, and what they're after is fresh product.
Yes.
And I never have enough of it. So I would love to have a further conversation with you. I have 13 appliances in my building that hold fresh product, and they're often empty because we feed, well, we feed so many people. There's just a very high turnover. So I'll put my contact information in the chat, and I would love to talk to you more about this.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
No worries.
I also threw my my email in the chat, so if you want to shoot us an email too.
Thank you, Rachel.
Galen or anyone.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we used to have a gleaning program at the market years ago, and we had very little success with the people accepting the product actually showing up to take it on Saturdays. And we would love to be able to provide a gleaning program again if we could work with somebody that would be able to.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I would love to figure that out and have further conversations. We are a really big site, but we have a huge network that supports our work. And we can help connect these pieces with our friends in the emergency food system.
Yeah, but could not be revived? The food trucks that used to come through our neighborhoods on the south side with food produce from the market, and we used to, because I used to buy, and a number of people in our communities used to buy from the roving truck in the neighborhood, and I don't know what happened to that.
Yeah, so the mobile market, unfortunately, a few years ago, we had to discontinue the use of the mobile market due to staffing restraints, funding and staffing, basically. So that is something that we've always had in the back of our mind, that we did enjoy doing it. And, you know, that's how we got food into the food desert areas that are so close to our market. So that's why it was discontinued. I can't promise one way or another if we'll be able to reinstate it, but it's definitely something that if the funding and the staffing comes back available, that I would like to be able to provide again in the future.
Yeah, I was on that board. So
Yeah.
through the Gifford Foundation.
Yeah. Yeah, when it was first set up.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I think there are a lot of sparks happening around this topic. So this is really exciting. So we can definitely talk more about how to operationalize some of these elements. But I do want to get Taylor's question because she's raised her hand for quite a while.
Thank you, Mara. So my question is kind of twofold for Amanda and Tony, and it's about institutional food procurement. I know, Amanda, you said the market is working with farm to school, and I was just kind of wondering, you know, how you all are partnering with farm to school, and additionally, Tony, are you often working with institutions such as hospitals and schools and carceral settings to kind of do that wholesale distribution? I know there's often a big gap and there are a lot of restraints around like state legislation that make it really hard for local farmers, but I know that the opportunity and the obviously the funding available for institutions to be able to purchase food is quite vast. So I'm just kind of curious about your experience and like what the market is doing specifically with farm to school as well.
Yeah, so the challenge that the market faces is we are a landlord. We love to provide services, but at the end of the day, what we kind of have to do is facilitate the service, facilitate that the services are provided. So we can't actually ourselves do the congregation of the product for sale. But right now, since we have entered into a lease agreement with the Syracuse City School District, they now have a facility on our site. And as we work with them, we build a closer relationship. And the ultimate goal is that the market was going to help facilitate connections. So help to establish connections between wholesalers, between individual vendors and farmers, and establish those connections with the school district. So there's a few different ways that we've looked at this and discussed it, but we don't have anything solid yet as it's gonna that we're definitely gonna do, but that's our role in it right now, is facilitating the connections.
In my experience, I don't deal directly with institutions and schools, so I have to go through wholesalers who can get the product there. But it's sort of difficult, especially with schools, because of the way the school year is, and we have fresh product, so it's a difficult. But there are some solutions we're working on, like freezing product. Now that we have that facility on the market, they hopefully eventually will have refrigeration. They'll have refrigeration and freezing in there where they can use a lot of local products there that'll be available for the school year. So, and part of the problem is too, with dealing with institutions, is the bidding process. So a lot of the wholesalers, they'll bid on this stuff and then they'll call the farmers and say, can you give me this for this much? And sometimes they tend to bid really, really low just to try to get and then it's hard to, and there's got to be a solution in there somewhere, where we can all survive as a business, but get the food to where it needs to be. So that's my experience with that. And occasionally I will deliver to, a school kitchen will call or something and want, some apples or some winter squash, something like that, and we'll do that. But that isn't the norm.
Great. Thanks for that question. Mark, we'll go to you. And then Brandy has, I think, what will be a closing question.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for talking today. It's been interesting to listen to everything that you have to say. So my question for everyone is, with Tony and Amanda, is really like, do you work with other markets in Syracuse? And if so, do you kind of have mentorships or anything, or kind of guide some of those? Because I know that you're open on Thursdays and Saturdays and Sundays for a flea market, and I'm there religiously every Saturday, so I love it. I buy from Emmy's all the time, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, but I mean, like, you know, sometimes you kind of want, you know, I can't make it there. I have a son that's on soccer at 9 a.m. on a Saturday or Sunday, and you know, you can't make it one week or whatever. And so I need some fresh vegetables on like Monday or Tuesday. But you know, some of those markets that are there aren't as fresh. You know what I mean? And so like, you know, do you work with other markets and offer that mentorship and offer them to like show them how to get those fresh foods in there? And you know, I guess, and the other side of it is too is, you know, what are some other ways too, like helping to like get to the underserved? And you know, we're starting a market here in Tip Hill, and you know, we'd love to kind of help out with the underserved. So so those are my two questions there.
So the first issue, and like I said, I've grown up going to all different farmers markets, little tiny ones with 2 vendors, to being at the regional market. And right now, the issue that I think we're really facing is that the amount of farmers markets is actually oversaturating the vendors. So when there's too many markets, the vendors can't get to all of the markets. And so basically, you know, from the farmer's perspective, is you end up spending. So when I did the farmer's market, we did Sunday in the field, Monday in the field, Wednesday in the field, and then an evening market, and then Friday in the field. And then the rest of your other days, we're getting up at the crack of dawn or well before the sun rises to try to get all that product from your coolers into your truck and to the market, and then you bust your butt all day to sell that product, just to go back out into the field. So what's really hard is, you know, if there's a market right down the road from the regional market, at the end of the day on Saturday, that vendor is spent. They're out of product, they're out of energy, and they can't get to the market Monday morning or Tuesday. And so we've even tried having more markets throughout the week. And for that reason, we've never been able to be successful with it, because there's just too many markets and not enough vendors to get to them. Now, Tony, you're on the other end of this, so let me hand it over to you.
No, you're absolutely right. It's hard to one thing too, it's hard to keep a lot of trucks on the road and people to drive them. So we've cut back. We even closed one of our stands over in North Syracuse. So we just have the main one in Liverpool. We decided to go to the regional market on Saturday, and we're thinking about if we can get a crew together to go Thursdays to have an extra day down there. It's just very difficult. We do try to do the Baldwinsville market. We did a lot of little markets, and it was just too hard to have a dedicated truck or trucks every day going to these markets, and the help to do it, and the employees to do it. So, you know, our main thing is, like Amanda said, when you're on the farm, is just trying to raise the crops and get them ready for market. And so it makes it a little hard. There are a lot of markets out there, little markets.
Well, thank you both for your answers. Appreciate it.
Thanks. All right, Brandy, last question, and then we'll go to small group discussion.
Yes, hi, I'm Brandy Colebrook. I am on the advisory board for SOFSA, and I'm also the director of programs at Refugee and Immigrant Self-Empowerment. And before that, I was the agriculture programs director for the Syracuse Refugee Agriculture Program, or SRAP for short. And one of the things, the question I have is, because the farmers in SRAP do sell at the regional market about 2 months out of the year, they are, you know, mostly organic grown food that's local. And one of the issues we had was wholesalers who had much cheaper produce selling right next to our table. So I was wondering if you guys have a plan in place to kind of separate out the organic local farmers versus the wholesale farmers that, you know, or wholesalers in general, they're not even farmers usually, that resell the produce for much cheaper. Because what I've noticed is that the wholesalers oftentimes advertise it as local or organic, or just kind of make it sound that way. And then customers don't know any better, so they buy it because like, oh, look, it's cheaper than this other table over here, when it's actually the local farmer, you know, trying to sell their produce that uses naturally or organic practices. And so they can't sell as much produce, even though they put more time and effort into it and it's more local. So do you have any plans in place to address that issue?
So as a state authority, the number one thing is that we can't limit trade. So we can't say, oh, there's too many apples on the market, you can't sell apples. And we also can't allow, we can't set a rate where you have to sell produce at a certain price. So we have to allow the sale of the product based on the business. What you can do, you can stop into our office and grab a farmer sign. So every year we have signs that are usually brightly colored that you can hang on your stand, that as long as you are a certified farmer with our market, that it says, you know, CNY Regional Market Farmer. So that is, we're not going to give that to the dealer because they're not eligible to receive that. But if, you know, it's all homegrown product, you are eligible to get the tag. The hardest thing too is, especially when we're dealing with a lot of low income, which we do at our market, unfortunately, sometimes the customer does have to take, you know, they do have to choose the lower quality, cheaper product because they need the amount of it to feed their family. And I definitely have had this conversation with vendors before because, you know, especially a lot of the organic farmers that spend a lot of time and energy on their crops do face these challenges, and I'm completely understanding about it. The other problem is if we were to group all of one kind of vendor together, that's going to cause people to only go to one spot on the market and they're not going to shop the market. And that's actually in the long run going to hurt a lot of businesses. And so if somebody is not looking for organic produce, they're not going to go to that organic produce section, where if you're spread out throughout the market, you know, they're gonna end up walking by your product. And, you know, I can say, put some big advertising out as to how you farm it, talking to the customers, explaining the process. And if you really don't like your neighbor, request a new stall. So that's, I know it's not the magic solution to your problem, but that's the word of wisdom I have. Tony, you have a farmer stall in the market.
Yeah.
So do you have...
Yeah, so we only you know, sell what we grow, and we have that farmer sign, and we try to talk to as many people as we can, because it is very frustrating to have local food, you know, organic or conventional grown, especially organic. I know a lot goes into that. It's just frustrating because I know in New York State we're constantly being undercut by other states that have less regulation, lower taxes, and the wholesalers bring that food in, and it's hard to compete with that. And we try to educate the public as much as we can. I know that's a hard thing and sometimes impossible, but you really need to talk to people and really talk it up about how you grow your produce and where it's from. Especially, we get a lot of people asking about where the produce comes from, how it's grown, and just engage with those people, and hopefully the word spreads. So it is hard. I know what you're feeling, because it's difficult.
And we do, especially during peak season when we're doing all of our features across social media, and I do a session on the TV on Saturday morning news. We promote the local and fresh product. I always try to add some educational pieces in there on how to get to know your vendors and make sure you're shopping local if you're looking for local. And so we do try to share all those pointers with our customers to really encourage, you know, the farmers. We also give a much better competitive rate to our farmers as a lease rate on the market.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
Great. Thank you for all the questions, and thank you to Amanda and Tony for your awesome presentation and especially this robust discussion. One thing we always try to do at these meetings is also think about what actions we can take together based on the ideas that come up in these conversations. So we'll go back to our small groups to have some of those small group conversations.